Okay, well, here we are. We're live on Facebook. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. My name is Guillermo Castañeda, and I will be talking to Elda Stepp. She's a licensed professional counselor, a licensed mental health counselor in New Mexico, a licensed professional counselor in Texas, a certified anger resolution therapist, and well, Dr. Elda Stepp, actually. She has a PhD in forensic psychology, and she's going to be talking to us about narcissistic relationships. And I think it's a wonderful topic. And Elda, did I miss something?
No. Oh, and I'm also certified clinical trauma therapist or professional.
Perfect. Perfect. And grief therapist.
Yes, and grief therapist.
Perfect. So thank you very much for joining us. We did have this presentation in Spanish about 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anybody that speaks Spanish that you know of, and you find this information useful, go ahead and share that one with them, or go ahead and share this with them, because I think it's going to be very helpful. This is not going to be any kind of medical consultation. We're not doctors, and this is not also supposed to take the place of either medical appointment or therapy. Just to let you know, anything you can ask, any questions in Facebook that you have, by all means, we're open to them. Just know that if you ask them on the chat right underneath the presentation, that this is not going to be private, so your information could be out there, but you're more than free to ask anything you want. Well, thank you, Elda. And so just wanted to know, just so we can get the history of what relationships are. Why are healthy relationships important?
Well, it's a very important question, because a lot of us, right? A lot of people feel that need to, what? I'd rather be alone rather than have a relationship. And what we don't realize is a lot of times whenever we come to that thought process is because we've already had an unhealthy relationship, or we can't tell the difference, right? Maybe because of past traumas, histories, and, environmental concepts that have, invaded that what is a healthy relationship. So what is a healthy relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the concept where we as individuals can feel heard, feel loved, feel respected, right? In other words, this can be a relationship from a romantic concept to, familial concept to professional, acquaintance, friendships. It's where two people come together and allow two different perspectives to be respected and considered, right? Rather than trying to play this competition game of overwhelm, of who can take over who first, right? Kind of like a war game in a sense. Instead, it's more of a teamwork, right? So a healthy relationship includes the respect. So let's say, for example, you believe in blue and I believe in green, right? And for you, the entire world is blue, and for me, the entire world is green. In a healthy relationship, you consider green. Oh, you like green. Very cool. Let me see what that looks like, and let's expand on this. And you know what? That's pretty cool. And I do exactly the same thing compared to, no, it's just blue, or no, it's just green, right? This competition concept, right? And then, the love. It's like, you know what? As an individual, right, you are important, right? Have important things to consider and say and think and feel, where we respect our boundaries, right? You know what? I don't feel comfortable with you talking about yellow, right? It's just an example. I don't feel comfortable with you talking about yellow. Oh, I'm very sorry about that. Let's talk about something different, right? So that you don't feel uncomfortable with our conversation.
So
right?
the basis basically is respect.
Exactly. And communication, right? Communication has a lot to do, because when we don't communicate our needs and our wants within these relationships, how are the other people supposed to know, right?
Got it. So, but there are different kind of relationships, and I'm glad you talked about that, because whenever we talk about relationships, right away, our mind goes to like, well, relationship based on love and the couples and everything else, but that's not necessarily it, and that's what we're going to take a look at today, because um, you can have the healthy relationship, any kind of relationship. You can have also that narcissistic relationship that we'll be talking about. That doesn't have to be couples.
Exactly.
And in a healthy relationship, I'm guessing you don't even need to have love, because it can be just any kind of relationship that you have. I guess that relationship you can have with somebody at the store, and that's not necessarily like, oh my God, I love that person. It's just I respect the person. So there's a lot of respect in that.
Exactly. And you're right, because love comes, with more intimate concepts, and not intimate concepts in the sense of, you're my partner and, we have an intimate relationship. Intimate can be, a very wonderful friend where you tell, certain secrets, or you communicate certain things that you probably wouldn't be saying to everybody else or to some random individual in the store, right? It's that intimacy, and that's another important concept too, being able to identify, oh, well, these are my relationships, because every relationship has its different boundaries. But it all comes down to, like you said, that sense of respect. Am I being heard? Am I being considered? Right?
Absolutely. And so, when you touch upon the healthy relationship, I think that we also need to talk about what's the opposite of that, right? What's the unhealthy or toxic relationship? So
So,
what does that look like?
So as we talk about the healthy relationship, anything that's missing from what we talked about, it's an unhealthy / toxic relationship.
Okay.
Where it's a competition between who can overpower who, right? This whole ideology of, who wears the pants in the relationship, right? And something that I know as a society we use a lot of times. It's like,
Right.
who wears the pants within the relationship? That's already turning it into a toxic concept, because nobody should be wearing the pants. It's about, how are we equal in making decisions when it comes to this relationship, and not just a partner concept, right? This is everything from parents to children, from children to parents, and grandparents and siblings, and friendships and acquaintances and jobs, so on and so forth.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. There's a lot of talk about, like, for example, toxic jobs and everything. And yes, absolutely, any kind of relationship that you may have.
Yes. So, when we incorporate this competition, right, this is where we start to lose respect for the other person, because now we're not considering how this makes them feel, or their needs and their wants, right? I'll give you an example. In a relationship between mom and or parent and child, right? This is my house and my rules, and you have to do what I want, right? This includes from you pursuing a specific career, if you're going to live under my roof, living in certain conditions, and so on and so forth. Compared to, hey, you know what, mom or dad, how about we meet in the middle? It's like, this is what needs to happen. This is what, these are some things that I need to have in consideration, so on and so forth. Oh, okay, well, how about we work together? How about, I listen to you and I respect, and if we can change something, we can change something. If we can't, we compromise.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not about just my way or the highway. It's okay, well, if it can't change, how about we can come into the middle?
Right. It's interesting because, I think that as society, sometimes we can even normalize relationships like that.
Yes.
Terms like frenemies.
Yes.
And just kind of going like, okay, well, they happen, but toxic, there's not a good connotation to toxic, period.
Mhm. Yeah, because see, what happens when we have wonderful relationships, healthy relationships, we live longer. We have better goals. We live healthier lives. We're resilient to, external issues, right? We're able to proceed in our life the way we want to, without feeling regret, without feeling, wrath, without feeling any form of disorder, like mental health disorders, physical disorders, anything like that. When we have that wonderful support system, right, which are healthy relationships, it takes us far beyond the moon, right? Compared to when we have toxic relationships, it's weights. They are weights that just drown us into the bottom of the ocean, and we feel we can't get out.
People get sick because of toxic relationships,
Oh
right?
yeah, fast.
How,
Yeah.
so like, what's one sign that, if there could be one, I know there's plenty, there's a lot of them and everything, but what would you consider one sign that that relationship might be a toxic one?
When you
I'm sorry, I'm putting you
feel
on the hot seat right now. It's like
right. But that's actually a very important question, right? Because a lot of times we wait until it's too late,
right.
right? So one of the main ones that I've noticed that probably would save a lot of, headaches is whenever you feel you're having to work too much to make the other person, like you, not even love you, like you.
Wow, okay. All right. So it's like you're kind of like going like, oh, see me, do, be happy with me.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the best one, because a lot of times people feel like, man, I'm adding weight to, like, I'm working extra hard and I'm still not catching their attention. That's already a sign that maybe this is a very toxic relationship. And no matter what's being done, they're not going to listen, or they're not even going to pay attention anymore.
Absolutely. So it's that, and everything that comes from it, right? Like low energy, because in a healthy relationship, you kind of look forward to having that, to being around that person. And in a toxic relationship, it feels like a drag.
Yes.
Like, oh, here we go again.
Yes. Or even feeling that sense of anxiety, like, oh my God, no matter what I do, it feels like it's going to go bad. That's already a bad sign. It's like, oh yeah, that's already probably a very toxic relationship, because you're right. We should not feel or have to feel, like we're walking on eggshells in a relationship. It should be like, I feel safe. I feel comfortable. I want to see you. Right.
And it's interesting because it's there, right? Like the low energy, like you said, all these signs are kind of there, but we don't see them until it's late.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Until it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I can't believe I went through so much with this relationship. And okay,
Yes.
well, that makes sense. So what's now, to get on with the topic, what's narcissism?
So, a lot of times, especially because it's being thrown out now, like candy, we think of narcissism as just wanting to be the center of attention. That's not all it is. It is very complex, right? We have to understand that it is a personality disorder. It's a set of characteristics that, and this is one of the debates, whether it is a nature or nurture thing, right? But
Okay.
it is a concept that there are characteristics of within a person, right? It's almost like saying, you know what, you as a person, with your likes, dislikes, your quirks, your mannerisms, whatever it is wrong. The first thing you're gonna do is like, no, I'm perfectly okay, right? You're going to fight that, right? And how do we know it becomes a personality disorders when it's affecting their lives, right? And we can't create relationships can't succeed, or there is distress, stressors, and then creating stressors around the community, or the society they live in, right? Which is family, friends, and so on and so forth. So what is narcissism, right? So according to the DSM-5, right? So narcissism includes a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, right? So where they think, they truly believe they are gods of the universe, right? Or they behave like they're gods of the universe. That's the best way I can explain it, right? Because they are great, they're wonderful, they're magnificent, right? And they don't see that, hey, I have flaws, right? Mm-hmm. When we stop seeing flaws, it's like, oh, okay, we're threading into those dangerous waters, right? Right. Or the need for admiration and lack of empathy, right? And that one's really important, because that's the difference between a toxic individual and a narcissistic individual, beginning by early adulthood and present in a variety of contexts, right? Mm-hmm. So going back to what we were talking about, so has a grandiose sense of self-importance, exaggerates achievements and talents, expects to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements, right? So in other words, let's say, for example, you and I work together, right? So we kind of know a little bit about our achievements and so on and so forth. And then I start to say, oh no, I have a PhD in, forensic psychology, and I work with the president very closely, and I work with their CIA agents and things like that. And you're thinking, did you, right? So that's an example. I exaggerated, one of my achievements. Excuse me.
So
too much too.
It's like the how do you call those kind of liars? The people that cannot stop lying about anything. They're just
the compulsive liars.
Compulsive liars. Thank you. And so they're just making things up, but they're making themselves the
yes,
the middle of it.
Yes, instead of things, right? They make themselves with all these lies, and you start to recognize, that's a lie. So where is this all coming from, right?
Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of people like on TV and everything that we've seen lately, and they've been doing that, and it's been coming out like they blame everybody else but themselves if they get found out, and it's like, nope, it's this person's fault, or this agency that did this, or this, they're doing this to me, the world's against me, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it can go either way, right? From I am the god of the universe to I am the world's victim.
Okay.
Right? It can go either or, right? There are people that have narcissistic tendencies or personality disorders that play the victim, right? They'll go into these, very erratic stories of how they are the victims and how they consistently stay as victims, right? Mm. So now the world owes them something because, I'm the victim here. It's like, oh, not really.
Yeah, right? I mean, if you're the only one going against the world, maybe the world's not the one that's in the wrong here, right? Exactly. And see, going back to what's the difference, because there are a lot of toxic individuals that do have that, approach, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, they fall into the category of narcissism, mm-hmm. right? But one of the major indicators is the lack of empathy and the lack of compassion, right? Mm-hmm. Because remember, narcissism is going to use its resources around them to, feed them without providing any form of empathy, right? Toxic, characteristics in individuals, they'll still have forms of empathy. They'll still empathize, right? But they may be too afraid because, of past traumas or past transgressions that they said, you know what, no more, right? I need to put this, wall into where you're not going to hurt me anymore. So, it almost seems like they lack the empathy, but they really don't. Because when it comes to it, they'll empathize a little more. Narcissism does not, right? And they'll even, that person, the toxic people, I'm guessing they suffer by not being able to help somebody, maybe. uh, or for what they've done. Maybe they feel bad about it and
Mhm.
they'll have the regrets and everything, but it doesn't seem like the narcissistic has any kind of regrets.
No, no, they do not. They do not regret any of the transgressions or hurts or damages they create. On the contrary, it's necessary,
Ah,
right? It's
necessary.
necessary. I need to sacrifice to you in order for me to be where I need to be,
Okay. All right.
right?
So your collateral damage done.
Exactly. That's all
Okay,
it is.
got it. It almost sounds psychotic.
Mhm. Almost, yeah. And actually, it is a form of delusion because it goes into that fantasy concept of I am God,
Okay.
right? Or, I'm everybody's victim.
Or both.
Or both. Yeah, exactly right. Or both. Yes.
They're sacrificing the god. Oh my God. Yeah. So got it. Wow. Okay. So so what part like how does that play into a relationship? What exactly does a narcissistic relationship look like?
So a narcissistic relationship is when one or both partners fall into the category of narcissism,
Okay.
right? They provide or they have characteristics of the diagnosis of personality disorder of the narcissism, right? And it can be an explosive relationship, right? It can be very explosive, very traumatic, very draining, very, it leaves you almost bare, bone bare too. Like think
Mm,
of like being somebody taking pieces of your skin off, and then now your muscle, and now your blood, and all these things until you're completely and utter bare bones, and you feel very, very vulnerable, right? Almost, you know, almost deadly type, right? That sensation of death, right?
right,
And
because I mean you're around somebody that has that grandiosity, of themselves and being the center and everything, and nobody can be the center of everybody's, or nobody should be the center
exactly.
of anybody's universe, right?
Exactly. It goes back to who wears the pants in the relationship. Nobody should be wearing the pants, right? We
Right.
both are equal. And see, there are levels of, narcissism too. So in one of the studies, they created, a measure where there is and this is what, this is how they explain it, and I'll put in my 2 cents after. So there is the healthy narcissism, there is, the grandiose narcissism, and then there's a malignant narcissism,
Okay.
right? So what does it all mean? So the healthy narcissism, right, according to some forensic psychologists,
Uh-huh.
include things that we have, like for example you or me or so on and so forth, where we want to strive and, be the best people that we can be. However, 2 cents, I don't like the idea of it being used as, a healthy narcissism, because narcissism is not healthy,
Right.
right? Because then it demonizes everybody else, right? That we're striving to be the best people that we can be. Because then it implies we're using the people around us and sacrificing them
Mhm.
for our own well-being, and that's not the purpose, right? We are growing to help grow, right? We're helping to help everybody else, and that it creates that confusion, and we never want to confuse them, because that's self-care, right? Striving to be the best person you can be to help everybody else, that's self-care,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Because
And
you're
we
not
never
doing
want to corrupt that.
because um the end part of it is not you, it's
Exactly.
them.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
So in this situation, another forensic psychologist had used the word benign. And I like that one better, right? Because
Right.
think of a benign tumor, right? It's bad, right? But it's not deadly, right? It's not going to grow and it's not going to kill you, but it's going to be, an invasive mass, right? So this benign form of narcissism that sometimes goes under the radar, right? Because it can go as, just a toxic individual, and we don't really realize that, oh, hey, there's narcissistic characteristics, narcissistic disorders, right? Then there's the grandiose, right? The grandiose are the ones that, are not criminal, but are more noticeable, right? They're toxic. They're in my observation, they're smarter just because they know not to get themselves into trouble with the law. That's all it is.
Okay.
Right. But they will still use and abuse the people around them, the environment, in order to be able to be, great.
Okay.
And then there is the malignant. These people are dangerous, right? These people, for example, the new Netflix show that everybody's talking about, Dahmer, right? That's malignant narcissism, right? That's what that means. These are very dangerous individuals that, they actually are there to probably kill you or hurt you or really create a lot of damage, right?
So if there's like a public figure that they are creating damage to other people, they don't care about doing it, and again, they're at the center of everybody and doing everything, and obviously, everybody sees, and it's like, whoa, there's definitely narcissism there, but it seems like to be like the benefit is them. But it doesn't, it may or may not be that they want to hurt everybody else. It's just that they're using everybody around them, yet people are harmed. What does that fall into?
That would be grandiose.
Okay.
Right? That would be grandiose, because if it were malignant, we would end up with a Hitler situation.
Okay.
Right? A Stalin situation, a Mao situation, right? All of these, like, where they are there to create damage, right?
For the purpose of creating damage.
Yes.
So, if they create the damage, like for going against like a like a race, or going against some country, or doing something, but it's just that they want to manipulate others, then that's a grandiose.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Wow. Okay.
And I know I sidetracked a little bit, but going back to that measure, it's the same thing with relationships, right? It's the same thing with relationships. When it's benign, right, it goes into this toxicity type of relationship, but it's almost unnoticeable, right? It's almost unnoticeable. Then there's the grandiose, right, where it's creating a lot of damage to the other person, or if they're both both people are narcissistic, then it's just creating this explosive context, right, where everybody else around them will get hurt. And I'll give you an example. If two parents fall under the category of narcissism, the ones that are going to be damaged here are going to be the children, right, and so on and so forth. And then there's a malignant in a relationship. This is where sexual assault, physical assault, drug abuse, all of these other concepts that are deadly are being incorporated.
Okay, so I'm in this relationship to get you. It also, like, it seems like, for example, some people get in a relationship and they plan everything and do everything just to make sure that they're going to cause damage to that one person. So it seems very even calculated.
Yeah.
Do something to this person, so that's the malignant. Okay.
That's exactly right.
And so you mentioned like the toxic relationship that takes that there's something off. You're kind of like, I don't know if I want to see this person. The energy's there, they're taking my energy away. So is that kind of like what it feels like with narcissism?
Kind of, because see, this is the thing. A narcissist will always be toxic, but a toxic individual is not always narcissistic.
Got it.
That's the difference, right? A narcissist will always be toxic, but a toxic individual is not always a narcissist.
So what's it like for someone to, I guess, to fall into that relationship? Like,
What do you mean?
yeah, what does that look like? That I guess that the relationship, what does that really look like? Like, say for example, I go into a relationship, or I am in a relationship with my narcissistic mom. What is that power struggle, or what does that look like?
Well, it looks like no matter what I do, my mom's not happy. No matter what I do, my mom thinks I just lost the word. Not enough, right? No matter what I do, I cannot amount to what they want. And then, right, I feel like no matter what happens to me, they don't care. They don't care. Like, I don't feel that warmth. I don't feel that love. I don't feel that, they've ever been there for me. Right? I feel like I'm being used for whatever they want, however they want, right? That would be a narcissistic relationship. So what would be the difference between a toxic relationship, right? It's where I'm still feeling like no matter what I do, this person is just unaccepting of who I am, right? And I feel drained, and I feel like, I'm putting way too much effort into the situation. But that shifts with, other people. I'll give you an example. So let's say you are in a relationship and you're married, right? And then you have kids. And yes. And your mom is toxic, right?
Okay.
But she was toxic to you. And you notice that no matter what you did, mom was just very unaccepting. She did not care. And, it was just a very toxic relationship. But then here come her grandbabies, your babies, and it's a complete and utter change. Right? So mom is not narcissistic. She was just toxic, right? Because now that empathy is there. I empathize with my grandbabies, right? For some reason, that wasn't there when you were a kid, but now you're noticing that relationship has changed with your kids.
Okay.
Compared to if she were a complete and utter narcissist, she would do the same thing with your kids.
Wow. So I can only imagine what, living with a person like that would be like for 18 years.
Yes.
So the same, any kind of relationship, it's like I'm not enough. But if the person thinks, the other person, narcissistic, thinks that they can't do wrong, and I'm pointing out like, hey, I'm not I didn't do anything wrong, or I didn't do it, I I wasn't at fault in this. What does that narcissistic person do?
Well, there's such a term that we've learned and like to use, where they gaslight, right? So I haven't done anything wrong, right? What do you mean? Look at what you just did. If you wouldn't have done that, right, we wouldn't be in the situation. It's like, oh, wow, maybe you are right. Maybe this was my fault, right? Because remember, that's a form of manipulation. That is manipulation, where the person just wants to keep you there in that web. You stay here and you can't leave. And, it's almost, do you remember in the Jungle Book with the snake when it dances and it's like, it hypnotizes Mowgli? That's the same thing in a narcissistic relationship. That's what the narcissist wants to keep you in that trance, right? And you're going to stay with me, and you can't live without me. And, if you leave, bad things are going to happen to you, right? So we use manipulation through gaslighting, through, financial manipulation, isolation. What else? Oh man, can't think of the words. But, say for example, and this was mostly used back in the day. It's still used today. I'm not saying it's not, but it's more rare now than it was, where, you know, one partner, in this case, the man, would work and the wife had nothing to do with the finances, right?
Mhm.
And if, you know, the wife needed money for something, they had to ask husband,
Right.
right? If they needed to spend money on this, they had to ask the husband. That's financial manipulation, right? You can't do anything without me.
Wow. No decision making.
Exactly.
So gaslighting is sort of like the person, you know, you tell them you ate the Oreos and they have the everything right here, and they're like, no, I didn't. You're dumb. You're imagining things,
You're imagining
and then
things.
at the end of the day, you're like, well, maybe I did imagine it, even though they have everything right there.
Yes, that's exactly what gaslighting is. It's where you start to doubt your own sanity.
And narcissistic person would probably, like, say for example, they're drunk driving and they get in trouble, and you say like, well, you know, you drove drunk. So even right then, what they would do is they would blame you for it.
Oh yeah,
Like, but
quickly,
you let me drive drunk.
quickly, without a second thought. It was your fault that now I have to go to jail. It's your fault I drove drunk. It's like,
Right,
no.
right. Going back to cannot take the blame, going back to playing the victim.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Wow.
now, and that's very dangerous too, because now you owe me, because you put me in this situation where you ruined my life and now you owe me. So
Mm.
now you have to take care of me,
So,
right?
I mean, if people realize that they're in a narcissistic relationship, like how hard is it to get out of it?
It's hard. It's very hard because remember, it was so much brainwashing. And it's a terrible word to use, but it's the best way I could explain it. It's so much brainwashing to where they strip you from your own identity and give you a new one, right? How are you going to strip from that new identity? You need that skin, right? In a figurative way speaking. It's almost like, let's say, for example, a job, or well, let's say, for example, everybody here at CEP has a specific dress code, right? And every time we walk in, right, we have to wear the specific dress code that is given to us, right? So we learn to live with that dress code.
Okay.
And then, you know, we're told if you walk out, right, you're going to walk out naked. I don't want to walk out naked. I don't want to walk out in front of everybody naked. So I'm just going to stay here. I can't leave. Like, I just cannot, because I don't want to walk out naked. There is nothing for me out there. There's no clothes for me waiting outside the door.
So
So
there's
I'm just going to stay.
that safety almost, right? In
Yes.
the even even in the unsafe relationship, there seems to be this safety to it,
Yes. Yes. It goes
because
back to
that
that
because you
brainwashing.
forgot what everything else looked like.
Yes. Exactly. Nobody can provide me the safety that you've provided, right? Because you've told me how much you've provided the safety, right?
And so I'm taking it, like, let's talk about, you know, relationship between couples and everything. I'm I'm guessing that somehow that that person even defended that narcissistic person from what everybody else saw. And everybody's like, well, you know, but they're doing this and they're doing that. And it's like, I can let go of my family. I can let go of everything because I'm defending my partner. And
Mm-hmm.
then, since I don't have anybody anymore, it's kind of like being in a cult
Yes.
where now, except the
Yes.
cult leader is my partner, but
Yes.
now it's kind of like hard to readapt to a world.
Yes. And a lot of people don't adopt. Think going, you've hit the mark with that one with cult. Think of what happened with Charles Manson and his cult, right? Did all of his followers separate from him? No, a lot of them, you know, he took to the grave with him, right? They follow and they still have followed him even now. It's like, and you think, well, why? Because he created this new identity for them, and it embedded in their brain, and that's what is for me, and I'm not going to stop.
Right. So how, like, well, what do I do then? Like, if I notice, like, oh my God, I may be part of this, what do I do?
Well, first things first, being able to identify, is this a malignant, situation where I probably need to call the police, right? Go to a shelter and, find that support from the community. That's where we need to start, right? Especially because we want to keep you safe. We don't want anything to happen to you, especially if, you're in a malignant narcissistic relationship. And this can be anybody too. If it's other than, right, then what's going to be important is to definitely reach out to your community, right? And whether it is support groups, whether it is mental health, definitely mental health, because what you're going to want is to recreate, strip down that identity that was created, that false identity that was created of you, into in a safe environment, be able to recreate your original identity, and probably even a new form of identity, right, that fits your needs, so that you feel comfortable, right, in being able to strive. Because when you get out of a relationship, specifically a narcissistic relationship, you feel there's a loss, right? It's a loss. I'm losing, everything that I've known, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it's more of, I'm losing what they made me believe I did not have, or I did have, right? So of course, it's the brain just like, whoa, what was there is not there anymore, even if it was just a mirage. So being able to get the help, right, from the community and from social support, from healthy relationships, right, is very important to be able to strive after, leaving a narcissistic relationship, or to be able to leave a narcissistic relationship. Because a lot of people can still have help even while under a narcissistic relationship, in order to be able to have that safe transition. Other than the hot and cold.
Right. So a narcissistic relationship, can that turn violent?
Oh yes, of course it can turn violent very fast. If we're not careful, very, very fast.
So because the people really don't think about any kind of consequences or anything like that, so it can.
Oh yeah. Especially because they believe they have enough control over you to where you're not going to say anything.
So if there's violence, if there's anything going on, the best way is probably, calling 911.
Yes.
If you feel any kind of violence, that the person you feel threatened or anything, call 911.
Yes. And then after that, the Center Against Sexual Family Violence,
Which, by the way, I have the phone number for it. It's 915-593-7300. 593-7300.
And any other resources that I may not even be thinking of right now that help you with all of these things, right? To give you, I know the YWCA, the Transitional Home for Women, also provide that help for women that are running away from abusive relationships, right? What else? I can't really think of anything else, but there are other resources that can be used. Definitely use them, especially if the relationship is very dangerous, because we do not want to see you get hurt.
Right. And after that, also, like you said, mental health, going to your counselor, psychologist, a therapist, going through a therapy, which might take some time, like you say, because it's a reconstructing your life.
Exactly right.
Wow. Okay. Is there anything else, Elda, that you
One
want
more
to? Yeah.
One more thing. If you feel you're in a narcissistic relationship, please understand we're here to help you. We're here to provide you the support. No matter what they have said, we are here to help you. Mental health is here to help you. right? You don't have to be doing this alone. There are other people that are also going through this, and it's not saying that, compare yourself to, everybody else's problems. No, it's being able to say, okay, I'm going to get the support because they understand what I've been going through, because they've already been through it, right? And then being able to get that social support from mental health, from, counselors, therapists, the community, especially the resources that are being provided. Don't feel that you cannot, because you can. And if it's hard, that's okay. We're here to make it easier.
I think that adding to that, if I may, I think it's part of the we don't need to feel ashamed if we ever fall into the traps of that. These people are excellent at manipulating, and anybody can fall into their traps. So this is not anything to be ashamed of, but just, in fact, just get out. And you do have a lot of support. Get out of those relationships, because they can be horrible to you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Elda. I do appreciate, again.
Of course.
I really like your talks over here. It's really like rewarding to learn all this. And I don't know what the next one will be. I don't have anything in front of me of what the next heart. But we usually have these heart-to-heart conversations every month. If this is Counseling of El Paso. If you want to call for an appointment, we are located at 6955 North Mesa Street, Suite 304. That's Mesa and Ressler. And our phone number is 915-209-1234, 915-209-1234. If you want to make an appointment. And we also have a website, counselingofelpaso.com. Any of the resources that we presented, they'll be down in the chat. In case you're watching this later on, we'll put them down in the chat too. Thank you so much, Elda.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.